Hi, everyone. Hello, listeners. This is Melanie Yazzie, co-host of Red Power Hour. We're back for another Red Power Hour episode. The days seem to blend together over these past several weeks as the war and the genocide in Gaza continues to unfold and change by the hour. So I actually don't remember the last time we recorded a Red Power Hour episode, but thank you so much for coming back to the podcast and listening to us. This episode will be part of our continuing coverage of the struggle for Palestinian liberation that is unfolding in this moment, as well as our condemnation and the work that we're doing, as well as millions of people throughout the world to stop the genocide in Gaza. So I'm going to hand it off to my comrades. I'm joined by several Red Nation comrades today for this episode, and I'm just going to hand it off to you all to introduce yourselves one by one, and then we'll just get right into it. I'll pass it to you first, Justine.
Obiakindi Sengitamu, everyone. Hello, I'm Justine. I'm with the Red Nation and Red Media, and I am calling in from Lakota territory.
I'll go next. It's me, Jen. Happy to be joining Red Power Hour again. I'm calling in from Albuquerque.
Hello, my name is Kiley. I'm a member of the Red Nation and also a member of Red Media, and I'm calling in from Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah, to everyone. My name is Demetrius Johnson, member of the Red Nation, and I'm calling in from the Birkgay, Albuquerque, New Mexico, 505.
Awesome. Thanks for joining, comrades. We're all in completely different places, but it's so lovely to see you all again. I saw you just about 5 or 6 days ago when we were all in Washington, D.C. together, and that's the topic of today's episode. We sent a delegation of 6 Red Nation members, including the 5 folks here, as well as our comrade Kyan Benali, who lives outside of Gallup. He actually lives in the Navajo Nation, close to Gallup, New Mexico. The 6 of us went to Washington, D.C. this past weekend to participate in the National March on Washington to Free Palestine. And we're just going to be offering some comments and reflections on that National March here. We think it's incredibly important to talk about November 4th, to talk about this coming together of people and forces and ideologies from all corners of the movement. I mean, this was a true mass mobilization, and we need to talk about it because the mainstream media has trivialized it. They've actually underreported the numbers. And so we're here to share our experience from the ground. We endorsed it. We were one of over 300 organizations that endorsed the National March. Again, organizations from all over the political spectrum. And we were there with 300,000 people. I'm sure that many of our listeners have been to actions and marches and rallies that large. That was the largest I'd ever participated in. And the fact that it was for Palestine was truly historic. The goal of the march and rally organizers was to make it a historic moment, was to make history by making it the largest action in solidarity with Palestine in U.S. history, and it truly was. And the fact that that wasn't reported by mainstream media, who were there, by the way, I think it's just part of the ongoing sort of authoritarian silencing of certain political perspectives that are in support of Palestine. And so I just wanted to read off the organizations that co-sponsored the march and put in just truly spectacular organizing and a lot of resources, paying for buses to bring people from hundreds of different places around the so-called United States. And we really, truly should applaud their efforts because they made history and they provided a space for people to come and to engage in mass mobilization. So the co-sponsoring organizations were Palestinian Youth Movement, Answer Coalition, American Muslim Alliance, the People's Forum, National Students for Justice in Palestine, Al-Awda, which is the Palestine Right to Return Coalition, the U.S. Palestinian Community Network, the U.S. Campaign for Palestinian Rights, Maryland to Palestine, and Palestinian Feminist Collective. If you don't know, that list includes pretty much all of the major Palestinian-led Palestine solidarity organizations that exist in the United States. So it was the first time I had ever seen the kind of collective organizing around the liberation of Palestine in the United States. And the fact that these organizations all worked together to do it, I mean, it truly was a turning point. I think it was a turning point. I delivered a speech. They invited the Red Nation to deliver the speech, to deliver one of the, would you say there were about 30 speakers, 25 speakers? We were one of 3 Native organizations or Native speakers who spoke. Crystal Toobles from Honor the Earth, which just released a statement, a very good statement, in solidarity with Palestine earlier this week, spoke, as well as Nick Tilson, who is the CEO of Indian Collective. And Indian Collective also released a statement a few weeks ago in proclaiming solidarity with Palestine. And so it was the Red Nation, Honor the Earth, and Indian Collective who tried our best to rep Native people, of course, who are also engaged in an anti-colonial struggle against our colonial and military occupier, the United States government. And so it was a truly beautiful and profound moment. It was an honor to represent the Red Nation on that international stage, to be with, to be with the people, but also to be with revolutionaries, and to not hold back in that moment. I think it was incredibly empowering for those of us who come from colonized nations and colonized peoples, to stand up and to realize that the people power of that moment could not be denied. And you felt so empowered and safe because of the numbers, and because everyone was there for one reason and no one held back. It was unapologetic. It wasn't even radical. It was just unapologetic. It was colonized people just proclaiming their humanity and refusing to capitulate to any of the pressure, any of the racist pressure, the colonizer pressure that has been unleashed on Palestinians and all people, Indigenous people, Black folks, other like Muslim folks who have been working tirelessly over these last weeks, decades, years of the occupation to support Palestine, and simply just broke through the barrier of that hate and that silencing and that move to disappear and erase our voices from global history. And so it was really a profound moment. We all authored the Red Nation speech together. The 6 of us sat down for about 6 hours in a hotel room on Friday. And then I delivered the speech around 1:30 p.m. On Saturday at the rally. So that's just a little bit of information about what happened. The rally went on for a very long time. Just one more thing. We rallied at Freedom Plaza. It's called Freedom Plaza. It's just such a dumb name. We rallied at a place called Freedom Plaza, very close to the White House, for several hours. And then at around maybe like 4:30 or 5, close to 5, I would say, the march started. And it was impossible, as Justine said, to know how many people were there because it was so big. It was just like wave after wave after wave after wave of people. And we marched through downtown Washington, D.C., and ended at the White House. And it was a truly beautiful thing to see thousands of Palestinian flags flying in front of this monument to genocide and white supremacy and the colonization of our people and the theft of our land. So it was truly powerful. But I wanted to hand it over to any of my other comrades to open us up on a trajectory of conversation, and we'll just go from there.
Thank you, Melanie. I just want to quickly add before we get into the conversation that the day before the march and rally on November 3rd, Palestinian Youth Movement published a list of organizations endorsing the march, and that list was nearly 500 organizations. Yeah, who supported that, who supported it. Like Melanie said, it was really something to be there and to witness, like every single corner of the left movement, any and everyone left of center was there. Like we had the liberals, we had the tankies, we had the trots, we had we had everyone. Look, go ahead.
The Maoists, even the anarchists were there.
Crystal Toobles was there. Nick Tilson was there. Melanie Yazzie was there.
Macklemore was there.
DJ Prashad.
Nonprofits were there. The Green Party was there. Like, yeah.
Have I ever seen such unity?
For real. No, like even like Macklemore's speech, I was making fun of it, but it was like so simple and so true. Like I'm just gonna like quote it how I did, but I was like, Macklemore was like, I don't know shit about shit, but I know this is wrong.
Peace, everybody. You know, first and foremost, this is absolutely beautiful to observe today. I didn't expect to be on a microphone, but there are thousands of people here that are more qualified to speak on the issue of a free Palestine than myself. But I will say this. They told me to be quiet. They told me to do my research, to go back, that it's too complex to say something, right? To be silent in this moment. In the last 3 weeks, I've gone back and I've done some research, and I'm teachable. I don't know enough, but I know enough that this is a genocide.
And that's all you need. We're like, we'll take that. We'll take it. Hell yeah, Macklemore. Like, it was just representative of the truth. Like, the gaslighting and lies that you see in the media is not true. Like, like, they're struggling. Like, colonizers are out here with their whole ass and they're still losing. They're losing the battle of like morals and what's good and wrong, because everybody knows to stand with Palestine right now, and like they are struggling to keep even that a secret. Like Melanie mentioned, I remember getting on the social media after the march. There was no cell service if you were at the march. That's how many people were there. We shut down the cell towers. We shut down Washington and we shut down the cell towers. And but when I got out there, I heard numbers reported as little as 10,000 people. And that is just a like just gross misinformation that they're reporting. Like, the solid number that people are talking about are saying is 300,000. I wouldn't be surprised if it was more than that. Like, there was just no telling of who was in front of you, who was in back of you. Melanie spoke pretty early in the rally, and I think a lot of people had missed her speech.
Melanie Yazzie. I'm here today on behalf of the Red Nation. Right back at you. Today, we deliver a devastating blow to colonialism. That's right. As Indigenous people of Turtle Island, we proclaim that decolonization and land back are the only forms of justice for the crimes of settler colonialism. Native people, unfortunately, have been here before. We know the entire history and future of Palestine because we have lived it. We endure the settler colonial project that calls itself the United States. That's right. We survived the elimination and removal of our ancestors. We are in our 5th century of resistance. We know that Palestine's future is a certain future because we are still here. Yet Palestine represents an alternative path for the native nations of Turtle Island. In this moment of our shared history, Palestine brings us closer than ever to the promise of true self-determination for all colonized people of the world. We fulfill our ancestors' dreams by standing with Palestine today. is the tip of the spear that steers us all towards liberation. That's right. And settler colonialism holds nothing back, and yet it cannot defeat those whose cries for liberation resound louder than any bomb they can drop on us. Colonialism is failing, crumbling under the weight of its own conceit. The fort is breached and the wagons are burning. The end of colonialism nears because the end of colonialism is inevitable. The United States wages endless wars to maintain its position as the supreme settler colony of the world. Ours is the oldest struggle against U.S. colonialism. Now is the chance to redeem your humanity, settlers of our stolen land. By standing with Palestine and standing with us. That's right. The end of U.S. imperialism is the only solution for us, for Palestine, and for the world. Mark our words. The humble people of the earth have spoken. There is no place for colonialism on Mother Earth. For the earth to live, colonialism must die. That's right. A free Palestine frees us all to build a future of peace and equality. And today we join our Palestinian relatives in a righteous struggle to author a new society. To our relatives in Gaza, we say, Eba nihitzil, through kinship we are strong. May our message carry far across the sea. Gaza, Gaza, you will see. Palestine will truly be free. Lahiyaha.
Because we went on about like 1:30. There was some confusion about the times. There was first the time was start time at 2 p.m. Then they changed it to 12. Then they changed it back to 2 p.m. and then back to 12. So we were on about 1:30. But I noticed that after Melanie had spoken, we were hanging out backstage for just a little bit, listening to the speeches and sort of taking some time to like just decompress a little bit, take a little break, have somewhere to sit. And then we got back in the crowd with our Red Nation comrades. But after we got back into the crowd, we stood there for several more speeches, and then the comrades who were standing there, D and Kai, they needed to go to the restroom, and so I went with them. And that was like maybe a matter of like half an hour, 45 minutes later, after we got back into the crowd. And I got sight of what the crowd looked like from when we went in and when we went back out. It was insane. Like the crowd had maybe, tripled. Like I have no idea how many times over, like the crowd, like there was no room to move. It was just so many people that had come in a matter of like half an hour. Like it was really something to see. And children, elders, like every single people was represented.
Yeah, and if you've seen like the popular time lapse of the march like going around social media, first of all, that should show you that it was far more than 10,000 people. I attended the Women's March NJ20. It had to be at least as big. And the Women's March was reported as the biggest march in U.S. history. This was at least as big, if not bigger. And if you're looking at that time lapse, the most popular POV is actually a view from behind the stage. So just to give you an idea of how massive the crowd was, all of the surrounding streets and blocks around the stage were just packed with people. Like, it was absolutely massive. The crowd stretched from Freedom Plaza almost all the way to the Capitol. So it was enormous. And that's just the one thing we really want to emphasize, because that is being underreported on purpose. And this is huge. I mean, it also shows that like the US and Israeli propaganda machines are on fire. They're in shambles. They're doing everything they can to downplay the massive show of solidarity and support for Palestine around the world. And it also must be noted that that day, it wasn't just this huge march on DC. There was massive marches in over 300 major cities around the world, with protests at least as big, if not bigger, in some places. Massive ones in Damascus, in Argentina, in Berlin, in London, like huge.
Albuquerque was also going pretty hard that day. I heard that they had a crowd about 500.
About 1,000, because
Wow.
yesterday there was another Palestine action that we spoke at. I read the speech that we delivered, that Mel delivered in DC. There was easily 1,000, and people who were there were saying, wow, this is as big as the one that happened last week. Like, the numbers were consistent. There was about 1,000 then, and then 1,000 yesterday. So people are willing to consistently come out week after week in these numbers, and it's powerful.
No, just so I have a story just speaking to like making our own media, right? Like why it's important to make our own media, because the mainstream media is just like heavily just like downplaying the amount of support that there is for Palestine. So I work for Indian Collective as a contractor on the tactical media team, and our tactical media team's out there in Atlanta for the week of actions for Cop City. But because yesterday was shut it down for Palestine all over the world, there was an action there in Atlanta that we covered. And so it was hosted by Palestinian Youth Movement and also PSL. So we're doing the live stream. We're covering what's happening on the ground. And, we interview people. And the first person we interviewed was this young Native person just holding a little cardboard sign that said "Natives for Palestine." And so we interview him, and he's nervous, he's young, he's really amped up. You could tell like his voice is like shaking, but he's just like really excited to be there. He gives like an initial interview. He walks away. We're about to interview someone else, but then he comes running back onto screen. And he's just like, wait, can I say something else? Can I say something else? And we're just like, oh yeah, for sure. And he's just like, so the other reason why I'm here, so like marching for Palestine, is because I saw that they showed up for us. He said that he saw the live stream in Espanola, and that he saw that Palestinians were there the day that Jacob Johns got shot. And he's like, that's the reason why I'm also here, is because I saw that Palestinians are there for us. So this is why I'm here. And I think that all Natives people should support and join us because they were there for us. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like it was like a very beautiful moment. Like when I saw it, like I really cried, because I was just like, wow, like if we weren't there, like, all these, because Indian Collective was also there, we were there, Red Media was there, just live streaming and covering what was going on. And also, we also like were with Muhammad Al-Kurd, who was the Palestinian that spoke that day, and covering like our own events. Like this is like why our own media and like why our own coverage is important, because of moments like that. Because the mainstream media obviously won't cover anything like that. So it's up to us to tell our own stories, to incite our own people, to educate our own people. And it was like a very surreal moment of like all of that coming together. And it's like all the way on the other side of us, right? All the way in Atlanta on the East Coast. But yeah, I guess like, our people are watching, our young people are watching, and they're literally becoming politicized in these moments. And it really is just an honor to speak here and to continue going to these events and covering it and talking about it and documenting it.
Oh man, thanks for sharing that, Dee. That makes me so emotional too. Muhammad, I hope you get to hear this, because it is powerful. Like, that whole week honestly kind of blended together. Like, I still think there's a lot to be said about those links and those relationships that were formed over the course of that week. I'm still reflecting on it, honestly. There's a lot to be said. But if anything, it shows us that, we say it all the time, but now more than ever, I hope people are seeing that native liberation is dependent on Palestinian liberation, like, entirely. And when we go to Palestine actions, I hope people understand that, you know, we shouldn't be going in the spirit of like charity or even just solidarity, but like everyone's liberation is wrapped up in Palestine's liberation, right? That's what this is about. In our speech, we said Palestine is the tip of the spear. It's going to lead us towards liberation, like everywhere. So I hope it's clear to people, like, it's happening. It's going down. Decolonization is happening worldwide. And we have everything. We owe everything to Palestinians.
Yeah, for real, though, we owe everything to our Palestinian relatives. You know, one of our dear friends, Samia, a Palestinian friend who's been on the podcast before, actually, this is so interesting. I was talking with a stranger who had reached out to me to do a presentation about an Indigenous perspective from Turtle Island about Palestine and what's going on right now. And they had listened to the podcast conversation we had with Samia when Al Jazeera did that special last summer with the Red Nation. Justine and Cayenne traveled around with them for a week in the Southwest. And then Justine, I think it was Kiley or Jen and I, we sat down with Samia in our 95-degree office in Albuquerque and had just a very touching conversation. And this person had listened to that conversation and found it very moving. And I'm bringing this up because, you know, our Palestinians, for us in the Red Nation, our Palestinian relatives, our actual relatives, they're not just fellow travelers in the struggle. There is really, truly, like, an intimate respect and a deep love that we feel. Like, there's true kinship with all of the Muhammad al-Kurd, right? And people like Samia. And I remember in May of 2019, I was still living in Albuquerque, and the Great March of Return was happening in Gaza, right? At that time, they were also trying to break down the border, the prison that their colonial occupier had placed them in. And there was the largest action in Albuquerque for quite some time happened in support of Palestine and in support of, you know, our relatives who were struggling to end colonialism in Gaza. And I remember the feeling of that, it also brought everyone together. In Albuquerque, it brought everyone from the entire spectrum of organizing together, including liberals and nonprofits, including the various sects of socialism, including the anarchists, including anti-Zionist Jewish folks who've been longtime supporters of the Palestinian liberation cause. And I remember I had a conversation with her after that about how we all kind of needed that moment to remember what that liberation, that feeling of liberation feels like, which you only feel when you're in those kinds of mass movement spaces where everyone is united around one powerful issue unapologetically and unequivocally. You may have differences in other places, but there in that moment, you're as one. I have the fist, because we say this in the Red Nation. You're acting as one. It's one heart, one mind, one prayer, as we have been told by Lakota relatives in terms of like how you should be, you know, moving forward in the world, doing this work. And Samia said, you know, she said kind of like offhand, she's like, yes, Palestine brings everyone together. And it was just kind of like a comment, but it's actually just so true. It's so true that Palestine brings everyone together. And that is not a coincidence that it does that. There's something so like utterly profound about the liberation of Palestine that truly brings people together. And so I'm not surprised that that is what happened on November 4th, and that's what's happening around the world. But that's why in our speech we said, you know, Palestine is the tip of the spear, because it truly is. Like Palestine, we owe everything in our own liberation struggles to Palestine. And again, we have so much, we just have love. We have love and unequivocal support for our Palestinian relatives in struggle for liberation. And as Jen said, it moves beyond solidarity. I know a lot of people think about Indigenous relationships with Palestinians, at least in like America and Canada, as solidarity. But that's not true, because we are colonized people and colonized nations as well. And we are here to stand hand in hand, arm in arm, and in league with other colonized nations, including our Palestinian relatives, to cast colonialism off of the face of Mother Earth once and for all. And that's why we wrote the speech the way that we did, talking about how colonialism is failing. And the opening line of the speech, of course, right, is today we deliver a devastating blow to colonialism, because that is, in fact, what is happening right now. And that is, in fact, what happened on November 4th. It was almost like a punctuation mark on the ongoing struggle to liberate the world from colonialism. And as our comrade Manolo, who co-emceed with our comrade and our relative Nadia the whole day on November 4th, we shall think about the time before November 4th and then the time after November 4th. And those will be two distinct periods of the global struggle to end colonialism. And I would like to just impart that upon folks, because that is truly the feeling of that day. And that is truly, I think, how we all feel. We were utterly transformed by that experience on November 4th. And it is all because of the steadfastness and the beauty of our Palestinian relatives.
Mel, when you're talking about the Great March of Return, I was thinking about our comrade Ahmed Abu Artema, who we found out a couple weeks ago is in critical condition after his family home was targeted in Gaza. And we've been it's been hard. It's been hard to hear about friends and what's happening to them, what's happening to their families. I haven't heard a follow-up on his condition since, but I think it's important for us to remember, like, what is happening on the ground right now, and to take time to do our best to look at the people who are reporting it, because we're not getting any of it in mainstream media at all. Again, these propaganda machines are working their absolute hardest to hide everything that is happening. And so I don't know if y'all wanted to talk a little bit about some of what we know is happening on the ground in Palestine to share with our audience. And also just kind of giving some background to, we had the privilege of hosting Ahmed when he temporarily escaped Gaza not too long ago. We hosted him in our office. We shared a meal with him. I know, Mel, you got to spend more time with him too. So yeah, this is it's more than solidarity. These are our relatives, right? These are people that we have personal relationships with.
Yes, several members, including one of his children, were murdered a couple of weeks ago by an IOF bomb. And if folks don't know, Ahmed was one of the catalysts, just a powerful, positive, calm, eloquent, kind of like beautiful presence. That's how he is in person. Demanding the liberation of his people, and was one of the catalysts for the Great March of Return 4 years ago. And if folks recall, it doesn't matter if colonized people resist, peacefully or so-called violently. They're met with the same response from their colonizers. And I remember, the IOF like shooting the knees out of those who were marching peacefully, actually, at that time. And so we still don't know the fate of our relative and our comrade, Ahmed. We have many other relatives and comrades in the West Bank as well that I have not heard from. And so I know that this has affected so many people personally. It's also affected a lot of Jewish people throughout the world personally. And I have a lot of compassion, I really do, for everyone that this has touched. However, we cannot we cannot weaponize our own grief. We cannot weaponize our own grief to silence a righteous struggle for decolonization and liberation, nor can we use our own grief and weaponize our own grief to silence the rightful critique and criticism and analysis of settler colonialism, of the Israeli state's settler colonialism, and their very explicit intentions for genociding and removing Palestinians permanently from their own homelands. And so that's just, I don't know, that's just something I wanted to say. The grief really got to me actually this past week, and I had to kind of process it. I'm not Palestinian, and I'm also not Jewish, and so I come from a colonized people, and so I understand those things, but I think the best thing, the best role that we can play is to just continue to provide a platform, right, where we refuse to be silent and we refuse to be silenced, where we're actually reporting on facts, but we're providing hopefully moral and ethical commentary and analysis about what's going on, and that we're able to break through the willful and purposeful misinformation, the lying. And what I'm, again, just like the authoritarian fascistic silencing of Palestinians, of Native people, of Black folks, of like Muslims, all of this stuff happening in the United States, the label of terrorism that's being slapped on mostly like people of color, like migrants and Indigenous people in the US who are speaking out against this. We're not falling for any of that. And like you can attack people all you want, but they're still going to show up 300,000 strong on the right side of history and to do the right thing. You are failing. Your genocide propaganda and your like racism is failing in support of settler colonialism. So we're just gonna say that here. But all my love and support to Ahmed and his family. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it other than it's heartbreaking.
I got something just to talk about like the amount of grief and heaviness that we all feel. I actually told Dr. Mel this, like the overwhelming grief, right? Like it's almost like you want to shut down, or like you're crying, and it's like almost like making you like, especially us as organizers, it's almost like making us like a little bit ineffective, or like it's slowing us down. But I reminded Dr. Mel, like, like for, I'm speaking from like a Diné person, like a Diné perspective of like the time of death, or like when it comes to grief, we have like our 4 days after someone passes. But if you're not like an immediate family member of the person that passed, that's where our clan kinship comes into place. If you're like from a different clan, or if you're not from that family, your role is to help, because the immediate family can't dig, they can't touch blood, they can't cut, they can't go outside at night. Like there's like certain things that they can't do. So that's when they rely on relatives to come and help them during that time, to alleviate all of the, not only the grief, but also just like the added work that comes along with like someone's passing. And so like in this moment, like those are things like I'm relying on, or like those teachings of like, I see my relatives that are dying all the, like, every day you hear the numbers rise up, you see the videos, you see the reports from people on the ground in Gaza, and it is like debilitating, but also remembering like it's not our role to grieve right now, if that makes sense. It's like not our role to just like break down because there's people, our relatives in Gaza, that haven't gotten that opportunity. Our role right now is to continue to organize, to continue to tell people what's happening in Gaza, to continue to shut it down. Those are our roles, and like that's actually what's being asked of us in this moment from Palestinians. So yes, like it is good. It is good to like feel those things because we are human, but also it's like not our role right now. But yeah. That's it.
Yeah, I guess I'm just gonna contribute something because I have to leave in a few minutes, unfortunately. But I guess I've just been reflecting since the shooting at Onyate, and then just like reflecting on the speeches that were delivered that day, and then just like attending the march in Washington, and also just sort of like reflecting on the speeches that were delivered that day as well, because we heard so many powerful words, and like you know everybody was just on it. Like I guess I'm sort of just speaking as I'm speaking as someone who's just experienced a lot of like liberalism at rallies. You know, we have when we're talking about, you know, liberating Indigenous peoples in like so-called America, where we're often confronted with, you know, we're all indigenous rhetoric. And I guess it was just nice to be in a place where that wasn't the messaging. You know, everybody in that moment understood like what decolonization is and how it's being played out. And there was just like a clear understanding, just like an understanding, you know. There wasn't any sort of like, there wasn't like a heavy nuance, or, you know, like there's two sides, you know. So it was really nice to just like be in a space where we just didn't hear a lot of like, I don't know, like whack messaging. But also, I guess, sort of just reflecting on like, you know, my experience as being a Red Nation member, and like what my political education was, like what was required of me to become a member. And that was to learn about Palestine. You know, that was like one of my first initial study group like assignments, was to understand the struggle of Palestine. And then I remember reading with Dr. Mel, Stephen Saleta's book. I'm sorry, I can't remember the title right now. But yeah, and then just kind of like recognizing, I don't want to say we're the same, but like recognizing the parallels of our struggles, and just like living under occupation. And I remember just being like so like yoded on how learning about Palestine was also like traveling through time. And it's kind of like, and I think Comrade Justine has said this too before, where like it's sort of, you know, we're in the future of like Palestine's occupation, but then learning about Palestine's kind of traveling back to the start of like our occupation. And just it's just so, I don't even have words to describe it. But and then in 2019, you know, I went on a delegation with Mecca. And despite like everything I was learning and reading about, you know, and watching documentaries and films and preparing for this delegation, I was really nervous, because to me it kind of seemed like there were these parallels, but it also just seemed really far away, you know. And then I was just really nervous about like not knowing enough, or, you know, how am I going to relate this back to, you know, Native people here, like in Turtle Island. And I was just sort of thinking about all these different things. But then when I got to Palestine, I just like immediately knew what was going on. I knew that it was occupation. I knew that there was land theft. I knew that it was a genocide. Like, and I knew that the first day. You know what I mean? And like, I knew, I understood everything that Palestinians were describing. I understood everything, even the things that they weren't saying, you know? And that's how I feel when we talk to Palestinian comrades that come to visit us, like Wael and, you know, Palestinian youth movement members. There's like this unspoken understanding and like unspoken experience that we have. And I just appreciate those conversations so much, because those conversations are also a space where I don't have to describe like our whole histories of occupation or like death or land theft. You know, it's just like it's just immediately something that we both understand and share. And with that, we also have like dark humor, which is nice too, because not a lot of people understand the dark humor that we have. And it just makes me think of Muhammad when he was like, when he told us, you know, if we don't laugh, we'll cry. And that to me is just like another example of how we both can have these like dark moments in our history, but at the same time, we're like so resilient in the fact that we won't let colonizers take our joy. You know, we won't stop them, or we won't let them stop us from living our lives. And or like expressing our culture or our beliefs, our opinions, our intelligence, our creativity. Like, it's not gonna stop us. We're still gonna call them out and say the truth, you know. And since the delegation that I went on, I've been sharing my experiences, but also like what I've been learning with my family. You know, and then at first my family, they didn't really like fully understand, or they were just kind of like, oh, you know, that's interesting. But now, I'm like proud to say my family's, you know, pro-Palestine. They're not afraid to say that they support Palestine. And, they also tell, you know, people they work with, my other relatives, you know, to support Palestine. My dad is like very, he's like, he's like keeping track of everything, you know, and he knows that, you know, MSNBC, CNN, they're liars. Like, he knows they're lying. And so, you know, he'll like correct something like that he hears that is wrong. My mom, she was offered to go like on a pilgrimage through her work, and she told them that she wasn't going to do that because it's like, what did she say? She was saying something like she doesn't support Zionism, or like the areas that they're going to, it's actually Palestine, you know. And she got into a lot of trouble, and she lost some friends for saying that, but she was just like, well, I don't want to be friends with anyone who supports, you know, genocide, so bye. You know. Yeah, and so I guess what I'm saying is, like, I hope especially other Native people who listen to this, to just not be afraid that there's people who will support you. We support you. And that despite like the backlash or, you know, whatever negative comments or anything that you may get, there's people who are going to support you, and you're not in the wrong. and to just always speak the truth. And I think that I just go back to what Muhammad was also saying too, about how those moments, it's like you're not a casualty, you're actually fuel for the movement. And I think, using that energy to contribute to like the support of Palestine and Palestinian people is the best way, to contribute to something bigger than yourself, but also to just like make those ties and relationships, because we really do need each other. And I also just think about, access to education and like literature and the truth, because I know on the res, it's like those news sources like MSNBC or CNN is heavily broadcasted. So just like, speak to your family, speak to your relatives or your elders, let them know what's going on. And there's plenty of resources that actually speak from like Palestinian experiences. And I just really want to urge like Native leaders, like Native nations, to cut their ties with Israeli companies or corporations or relationships, because they're also they're doing that purposefully to like legitimize their genocidal acts, right? Like and I just don't want Native people to become like a puppet or like another gimmick for colonizers to carry out their genocidal like agendas, you know what I mean? Like, I guess I'm specifically talking about Navajo Nation and like how we just can't do that anymore. And I know like past presidents of Navajo Nation have sought out those relationships with like Israeli NGOs, or like maybe I should say Zionist NGOs. And I just don't think that is how we should carry ourselves in that way. You know what I mean? Like, but I'll stop there because I feel like that was a really long ramble.
No, it was so good. If you want to keep going, Kiley, I could listen to you all day, honestly. The Navajo Nation runs a Raytheon facility in northwestern New Mexico that contributes technology to the Iron Dome that Israel constructed. And so, there are Diné people who are doing organizing, but they're definitely like not in the government of the Navajo Nation. And consistently, I would say, since I became politically aware of the connections between Palestine and Turtle Island about 12 years ago, Navajo Nation government, these men who always win as president of the Navajo Nation, have consistently they stand for Israel. And that happens for a lot of reasons. It's called red washing. There are pretty amazing Indigenous intellectuals, Keolani Kondu and Robert Warrior specifically, about a decade ago, coined this red washing, right? The way that Indigenous leaders in places like the Navajo Nation in the United States or Turtle Island are used as part of like the propaganda machine by the Zionist state of Israel to kind of justify its existence as a colonial entity, but then also to silence and demonize Palestinian resistance and Palestinian voices. And so the clock's ticking. I mean, the bombs continue to be dropped. I mean, there's so many bombs that have been dropped on Gaza. I've now read that it's equivalent to 2 nuclear bombs. 2 Hiroshimas worth of explosives have been dropped on Palestinians. 70% of the people who've been murdered by these bombs are women and children. Okay, like that really needs to fucking sink in for people. And I cannot believe that there are Native people and Native leaders who are just turning away from this. It's actually disgusting. And so long as bombs are dropped on women and children in Gaza, so long as people continue to ignore or justify or make it or apologize for genocide, the pressure will continue to mount from the good people of the earth, the humble people of the earth, who know that this is wrong on every single level and are doing everything that we can to stop it, because that's the right thing to do. You don't even have to have an analysis of settler colonialism. You really don't. To know that this is fucking wrong. It's like exactly like what Macklemore said. He's like, I don't know shit about shit, but I know that this is wrong. And if like that guy, that like white guy whose like career is over, sorry Macklemore, but it is, can say that, then why can't like the president of the Navajo Nation say that? Because as Indigenous people, we have a historical and a moral understanding of how colonialism operates. And if no one else is going to say it, like Native leaders should say it. And so long as the bombs continue to be dropped, and so long as this genocide continues to be excused by the United States and like Europe and like the major imperial powers of the world, like the people are not going to stop coming for you to force you to make a choice. I really hope you make the right choice. But if you don't make the right choice, like history will remember you as a coward and as an apologist for genocide. And like the rest of us will continue marching forward towards true freedom and true liberation and true equality. And you will be in the dustbin of history as that figure. And it sucks. It's so embarrassing to be a citizen of the Navajo Nation and to have the Navajo Nation continue to take this stance. Because guarantee you, like the people don't agree with Boo Nygren and, the Ben Shelleys and all of the administrations over the past 12 years that have been pro-Israel. It's disgusting. And we made a pledge. We made a pledge in 2019 when we issued our position on Palestine to hold Native elites like tribal leaders, like intellectuals, like celebrities accountable for this disgusting colonizer behavior. And we will continue to do so. That's the pledge. We see you.
I've been making the joke that Deb Haaland is like sitting out there somewhere, like flinching at every small noise, just waiting for me and Jen to like bust through the window or the wall and be like,
we fucking told you.
We told you,
bro.
We told you.
Oh my God.
When did I tell you?
A long time ago. Like,
no, we used to hound the shit out of Deb Haaland. And we gotta hound her again. I'm not gonna lie, I've been a little preoccupied since September 28th when the shooting happened. It's just been like and then the Palestine's doing a land back, and I've been a little busy. So if you have a little more free time than me, please feel free to go hound Deb Haaland and Sharice Davids. Please. Like I was sorely disappointed that I didn't see her. I'm not one to keep up with the electoral stuff or Congress or any of that, but I was just curious to see who's signing the whatever Gaza resolution that they did. Deb Haaland or Sharice Davids weren't there. I looked at the members of Congress who stood next to I'm sorry, I don't remember how to say her last name, but the Palestinian American congressperson, Rashida. I don't know how to say her last name.
Rashida Tlaib.
Yes, and Deb Haaland and Sharice Davids weren't there. Like that is like, how dare you? Like you are doing a sore job at being an Indigenous congressperson. Like gosh, I know. Like I'm not one for electoral stuff. We know what it is, but I'm just like, go ahead, Jen. Whatever you're gonna say. Sorry.
You're an embarrassment to the history and the struggle of our people.
Fucking sick.
Shame on you, sick.
Shame.
I am disgusted that you are my relative.
Shame.
Here's the thing though. Like, I know Deb is somewhere feeling hella guilt and shame, like wallowing, right? Because I don't think Deb is like a soulless monster, like some of these folks, right? I think she's still capable of feeling that shame and empathy. And it's just crazy because her excuse is like, well, I need to protect my I know she's being like advised this, right? You need to protect your career so you can get reelected and be in Biden's cabinet next year. And I'm like, Biden's not going to win next year. You're doing this so you can be in the cabinet of someone who's not going to get elected. Like,
Yeah, that
I'm sorry,
ship
the
sailed.
Democratic Party's done. It's done. You're going to go out like this? You're going to go out like you're going to do this? You're going to defend Israel in vain. You're going to be silent in vain because Biden is not going to win next year. And she is not going to be in his cabinet next year because he's not going to win. And that's the end of the fucking discussion. When Palestinian aunties are calling Biden "Nach Biden," that should tell you something. Don't do this. Don't go out like this. Don't go out like this. Do what's right while you still can. That's my message to Deb.
Losing your job doesn't make you a martyr. Losing your friends doesn't make you a martyr. What side of history are you going to be on? Like, I'm not a liberal, and I don't think that getting a Congress position is the height of Indigenous liberation, but I know why you did it. I know why you did it. You did it because you think that you can do something for Indigenous people. You did it because you love your people, and this is what you're doing when you're there. You're siding with the genocider, and you are propelling a Palestinian genocide. If that were our people, you would have been on the colonizer's side when colonization was happening to us. Like, get your shit together.
Deb Holland at this point has to pull a Boromir. You know, she's trying to take the ring, and you know what? She has to protect the hobbits now. Like it's like at that point, it's like you're not Legolas no more. You're not Gandalf. You gotta be Boromir now. That is like your last redeeming thing that you can do. You can pull a Boromir.
There's still time. There's still time. Come on.
There's still time, but that window is closing. Let me tell you. You better make the right choice.
Right now, you are on the wrong side of history, and you are about to stay on the wrong side of history. Like, that is so embarrassing to get, like, the Congress position as, like, not only, like, the first Native American, people to get a Congress seat, but the first Native American women, and then to be a Pueblo woman who can't even get a council position in your own tribe because you're a woman. Like, you are about to take a sincere shit on what kind of legacy that could have been. You are shitting on your legacy right now.
Like, right, it's like at the very least do it for your own self. Like, if not for Palestine.
Just have that respect for yourself.
People in the world. Yeah.
This podcast is gonna drop Monday, and it's just gonna like, oh yeah, into her like office through the wall. Like, come on, Deb, get it together.
Like Deb and everyone else too. Everyone else too.
Everyone.
Like, stop being cowardly. All APCG, all of the tribal leaders, all of the council people,
all the celebrities,
everyone. It's the absolute barest of bare minimum anyone could be doing right now. The barest of bare minimum.
Macklemore walked so you could run.
Yeah. How are you gonna let Macklemore beat you? Like, Jesus.
That's embarrassing. It should be embarrassing for you. And also, Taika Waititi, you're a disappointing Indigenous man. This is why men shouldn't lead.
I'm never watching another Taika Waititi
trash.
He's been. I mean, at this point, Native celebrities, it's like, if you haven't said something by now, you know what? I'm gonna let time deal with you because you don't have much of it.
Ooh, Uncle Tomahawks, we're coming for you. But I kind of want to go back to like the energy that the march had created for people like us, and not even just people like us who are already with it, but like people like Macklemore who like just are like, I don't know shit about shit, but I know this is wrong. Like, that space was for them. And like when we were writing the speech, exactly 1 week ago right now. We were talking about who we wanted to reach and who we wanted to talk to, who our audience was for that speech. And, we wanted to reach people in Gaza. We wanted to reach Native people here in Turtle Island to, I don't know, to signal that like the time is now, like the time of decolonization is now, the time of colonialism is at its end. And we sorry, I was going somewhere with this point. but but basically what I was trying to get to was that there was a certain energy at the march from every single corner left of center, from like the most liberals of lived out people. Like thousands and thousands of those people were radicalized that day because of the genuine space that that rally and march created to be unafraid to simply say that genocide is wrong, that we stand with Palestinians. Like that, when we were writing that speech, we were talking about instilling confidence in the people to say, yes, this is wrong. And that's what we hope to do ultimately. Like I think we all know why. That's why people like freaking DJ Khaled won't speak out, because like they have like all this like all of these like Zionist entities hanging over them, and like like we just want to give people the confidence to stand up and say this is wrong. And that's what that space did. Like even people who are really cool but like don't get the chance to be like totally just like fuck yeah, let's go. Like yeah, like Nick Tilson's speech that day was one of those speeches that I felt like did that. Like I was like, fuck yeah, Nick. He was like, we took the American flag at the Battle of Greasy Grass and we never returned it. Ah! Like, let's go. But like I remember Melanie saying like we don't get to see people like that all the time. Like that, like you don't we don't get to see people like that all the time. And that was an amazing day. Like if only you were there, like if Deb Holland was there, if Sharice Davids were there, like you would know what it would mean to be surrounded by people who like, I don't know. I imagine that they're just surrounded by people who are just evil all day, every day, and like are only interested in like doing imperialism, and like that's who they're exposed to all day, every day. But if they stepped out of that circle for 1 second, they would see the power behind all of these people. Like they would see that they are in like a minority, like a minute minority of people in the world who actually are talking about like whatever two sides bullshit, whatever Zionist bullshit that they're fed every day. Like they are in like the super minority of people, because there are hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people across the world, billions, if not billions of people who are out there for Palestine right now, because we know what's up. We know what's good. Like just as simple as like genocide is wrong. This is wrong.
It also brings me back to like, look at all the anti-Zionist Jews going so hard. Like their presence is so significant and powerful. And I'm like, if people who are like getting disowned by their families and kicked out of their synagogues and shit, like can do that. And for them, it's not even a question. They're just like, of course, those aren't even consequences. Like for this, like, of course I'm going to stand with Palestine because I'm a human fucking being. And I'm not going to let the genocide of my people be used to justify the genocide of more people. And it's just as simple as that. Like, it's literally so simple. And this is like the most cut and dry. It's so cut and dry, right? Like the fact that people try to frame this as something complicated or complex is like baffling.
I just want to also mention a week ago, the day before the march, when we got to DC, we got there a day early before the march, or 2 days early, so we'd have the day before free. And so we went to breakfast, and we were going to CVS to go pick up a couple things that we needed. And when we got there, we could hear down the street, like, just like very real, like in the like real big, like free Palestine. And, like, Melanie's ears just like perked up. She's like, where is that coming from? And she's like, there's a march for Palestine happening. And we're like, oh shit. So we all joined that march, and it was actually the University of Washington Students for Justice in Palestine.
George Washington University.
Oh, yes, thank you. George Washington University, Students for Justice in Palestine, who are hosting a march. That day, they're voting in a new president, and they're Zionists. They called their vigil that they had for Palestinians. I can't remember what word she used.
It's like a terrorist activity or something. She labeled it as a type of terrorism, or like aiding and abetting terrorism or something. A vigil.
Ugly, but yeah. But there was an anti-Zionist Jew there, and she was speaking. She was so powerful. She's like, I don't care if I'm going to get kicked out of my parents' house for saying this. And then there was I don't know what their what you call it, what group they're from.
Probably Jewish Voice for Peace.
No. The ones where they had to give the microphone to some other people.
Let me look that up. I'm actually not sure.
But what they said,
the Orthodox Jews, but I don't know. I don't remember the name of their organization.
I don't remember either, but I just remember their speech and how powerful it was, and how they were really just speaking about the beauty of Judaism, and how they're just like, this isn't us, this isn't what we believe. And that's what all anti-Zionist Jews have been saying this whole time. And it's just like, you can't use you can't use the whole like, oh, it's complicated, this is a religious thing anymore. Like, you can't do that. You can't use that as an excuse for genocide anymore that has to do with religion. You can't use like, it's a complicated history anymore, because we're seeing what's happening in front of us right now. Like, if you are a Zionist, you're just simply wrong. You're wrong, and you're a bad person for it.
Yeah, special shout out to our anti-Zionist Jewish relatives. There were thousands of those kinfolk on the ground in Washington on November 4th. And when I went to Palestine in 2011, I actually didn't even understand at that moment entirely what settler colonialism was. I was early on in my doctoral degree, and I didn't really understand anything about Palestine, certainly not its relevance to Native politics or Native issues here in the United States. And it was two anti-Zionist Jewish professors who convinced me actually to go to Palestine, because they were like, Melanie, you must. They convinced me. I wasn't going to go. And they're like, you must. This will change your understanding of colonialism and decolonization. And you know what? It did. It completely transformed my life, changed my politics, started the Red Nation a few years later. And, then the rest writes itself, right? We're here now. But just like a special, like the kinship, and just like claiming also just the badassery of anti-Zionist Jewish folks. JVP, Jewish Voice for Peace, has also been writing so fucking hard for Palestine right now. And thank you so much to all of you for educating us. First of all, those of us who are not Jewish and who need education about Israel, who need education about anti-Semitism, who need education about Zionism, but also just like doing the right thing and showing up, and also being good relatives here on our homelands, and understanding how you might also be complicit, especially white Jewish folks who have a proximity to whiteness and certainly settler ontology in the United States that they also need to be accountable to. Sorry, you just do. Like, I'm just saying this as a Native person whose lands are occupied by the US. And like a settler is different than a civilian, first of all. Like, you actually do need to understand settler colonialism to understand like who a settler is and how a settler acts and functions as kind of an agent of colonial occupation in a settler society, in a settler nation state. But I have so many anti-colonial anti-Zionist Jewish friends and colleagues who just understand all of this stuff unequivocally, and there's no question. They just show up and they throw down for all oppressed people, right? And like that, I just wanted to say that. We haven't had a chance to say that on the podcast, and there's so much like division and misinformation, and it's even more than name calling, just fucking canceling people's asses right now over the question of anti-Semitism because of all of the confusion with this. And I don't know, I just want us to be really clear about that, because we have the same kind of love and the same kind of kinship with everyone who like knows what is up and knows what's good. I don't care who you are. And if you don't know what's up and you don't know what's good and you do that on purpose, then you're an asshole. I don't care who you are.
I also want to sorry, let me just say this real quick. I want to reiterate what our Palestinian relatives are saying, where it's like, how dare people make us seem responsible for like policing ourselves around anti-Semitism, because they're like, it is not our fault that like this European genocide and ideology that developed there is now something that we need to be responsible for and police ourselves for, right? Muhammad al-Kurd taught us a lot about semantics, right? Like it's false when people invoke this stuff. It's false when people invoke the semantics to police people or to shut people down when they're talking about Palestine. And it's pretty obvious when people are weaponizing that. We see every single mainstream news anchor weaponizing that in every single interview they do with a Palestinian person. Every time they mention Palestine, this is what they do. And so it's important to also realize, like, if you really, really care about anti-Semitism, you wouldn't be invoking it in this way. And it's just, the insincerity is so obvious.
I was just gonna also mention that like one of the points that the Orthodox Jewish group had hit was like, no matter where Jewish people are in the world, like they just wish to be good, humble civilians. Like that's what they were speaking to during their speech. And I just like, it's like simple. It's so simple. Sorry, it was an incomplete thought, but it also speaks to like what Palestine was before Israel. You know, like there are Jewish Palestinians. There are still Jewish Palestinians. There like that was like one of the first things that they like really just hammered into us when we got to Palestine, was that this is a place for Jewish people, Christians, and Muslims all together. Like if you wanted to talk about the religion, like it existed peacefully and freely all together. And right now, like Zionism is anti-Semitism because they refuse to let the Jewish faith exist freely in Palestine. Like I don't understand how you don't get that. Like I remember like one of like my weaker arguments when I was first learning about Palestine was like I can't remember what the argument was, but my response was like, "Oh yeah, then explain Palestinian Jews then." like they're still very much there, and they are under occupation by Israel.
They get messed up all the same, just like Palestinian Christians who, like, yeah, I mean, yeah. Yep. These arguments coming out of the US by non-Jewish Zionists, right? By these elites, like, it's wild. It's wildly offensive. It's totally ahistorical. It's just blatant genocide apologia and nothing else. Like it's not based in anything else. uh but I do want to, because it kind of seems like we're gonna wrap up shortly, kind of bring us back to these feelings of empowerment. Like it's grief, but there's also like, this is unprecedented revolutionary movement. Like I did not expect to see a moment like this in my life anytime soon. And I think a lot of us, and we've talked about this on the podcast a lot, this feeling of like kind of feeling lost or stuck, or like, oh, we know this revolutionary moment's coming, but like it's so hard to pinpoint. And now, truly, like there's no doubt that it's here. Like it's here. And no matter where we're at in terms of our capacity or numbers or organization, like we have the world on our side. Like the world is on Palestine's side. And as long as the world stands with Palestine, we are all going to be okay. And that is what's like, I think about that every day, and I'm so grateful for that. And just all power to Palestinian people, all power to colonized people of the world.
It happened in a matter of a month.
Yep, several weeks. That we were joking after the Oñate shooting, and then right when October 7th happened, we were like, it's been one of them weeks that are like decades. We're always referencing that Lenin quote. We've had a few weeks that are like decades now. And time is just moving differently.
Yeah, since September 28th, it's been a few years. But for real though, like I don't know, like life has profoundly changed. Like I kind of think about, sometimes in my head I hear the gunshot on September 28th, just like that one single shot, and then waiting to see if there was going to be more or not. But that sound is almost like it's like a marker in time for when things just change. Like I still haven't really processed what all has happened since then. But one of the things that like I've kind of come to realize is that podcast episode with Muhammad Al-Kurd, You Ain't a Leftist If You Haven't Left Yet. That was like, first of all, that was recorded the day after the first press conference, that Monday before the shooting. And then the shooting was at the next event. So we met Muhammad Al-Kurd during that time, and we recorded that podcast. But I come to realize that like that was actually the last time that we were ourselves before this time. Like that was like the last possible moment where we could have that sort of lighthearted conversation about Palestine and about just everything that we had talked about. I remember we were laughing, we were talking about Kanafa, and I wasn't in the podcast. I was producing it. I was in the room, so I was there for the whole thing. But I just think about how like profound of a time it was. It was at the very end. It was at the very last possible moment that that conversation could have happened the way that it happened. And I'm just so like I'm just so blessed to be a part of the Red Nation and to witness world history happen in real time with my comrades. Because just 10 days later after the shooting is when everything popped off in Palestine. And it is I just sum it up by saying like this is a profound time, but it's like beyond that. Like we are witnessing things that, like Jen said, we thought we would never witness in our lifetime. I remember when we were in DC, I was telling I don't know, we're just kind of talking about like the general atmosphere in the US, and I come to realize that I actually overestimate the US in a lot of ways. Like I'm like, oh, the US is the supreme overlord, imperialist overlord of the whole world, and there's no way we could go against it. Like, I have thoughts like that sometimes. I'm like, how would this ever happen? But we're seeing colonialism and imperialism fail right before our eyes. Even if it's not the people doing, like, even if it's not like just like the sheer amount of people power um behind its failure, it's like straight up like acts of God. Like straight up like is like we're straight up like we're laughing at you, Israel and United States. We're fucking laughing at you at your failures. Because like after the march, like I remember we were so like pumped and amped about everything and how it went that day. Like we got on our phones to look at the news, looked at Resistant News Network, and we also and just everywhere we're seeing that they're firing missiles out of Tel Aviv, and like a actual cartoon, it's going in the sky, just going and like right back into Israel. Like, you don't even have God on your side, bro.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like the people power in this moment is undeniable, right? Like we really are moving mountains, and we're moving decades in a matter of weeks. That's certainly happening. But also, and we said this in the episode we did a couple of weeks ago, it takes like an enormous amount of resources and effort and just pure force to maintain occupation of other people. And like you said, Justine, like colonizers are just putting their whole ass into it. I mean, they're like doing everything that they possibly can to maintain the colonial project. And it's just cracking. This is what we said in the speech. It is cracking under the weight of its own conceit, because it thinks it's omnipotent. It thinks it's all powerful. And like that is its greatest failure. And it is so, it's like bankrupting itself. And so you're just like watching, so you're just watching like the pressure from the humble people of the earth just coming for it, right? Just coming for colonialism. But then you're also just watching colonialism implode on itself by its very nature. It is self-destructing. And it's just like, what a wild time. What a wild time to be alive and to watch this. I mean, we're doing the most, but also colonialism is doing the most. And it will lose.
And yet it cannot. What does the speech say? And yet it cannot. I'm forgetting the speech.
What did we say? It was so good.
I know.
The fort is breached and the wagons are
burning.
They're burning.
Burn it.
And the wagons are burning. No. Yeah, whole ass out, colonialism just giving it everything that it has, and it still cannot stop us.
For real.
And what a sight to behold.
This is what me and Jen were talking about. We shared a room. We're up until like maybe 2:00 that night, just kind of talking. But we're talking about how like imperialism has never seen this before. Like they're fighting like masses of people like in the future from their own like playbooks. They're going by their playbooks and they're failing because they have never dealt with people this unified before across the entire world. Like we're looking at this happen from our phones. We're connected to people on the ground in Gaza, and their playbooks are failing right now. They want the smoke and they can't handle it. They can't handle the smoke. I don't know.
Right. They're perfected playbooks. You know, we see them just recycle it again and again. The ongoing war on terror, the tactics they developed on us during the Indian Wars, right? They've been fail-proof. They rebrand it. They choose their new scapegoats. They do it again and again and again. And this time, it's not working. It's failing miserably. My favorite sign that I saw at the march said, this isn't 2001. No one believes you. It's the best. Like,
I agree. I saw that sign too.
Like, the ongoing war on terror, like, the recipe, it's outdated. It's done. Like, the propaganda recipe is done. Like, you can't fool young people who grew up in chaos and never once saw what the American dream supposedly has to offer.
And like literally an entire generation has been born and has been like coming of age since 2001. Like, you're dumb. Like, war on terror propaganda doesn't work on people who weren't even alive in 2001. Like, sucks, huh? Sucks to be like a decrepit white supremacist imperialist, huh?
Sucks to suck. Joe knock Biden.
Genocide Joe.
Genocide Biden.
Joe. No, my favorite meme was the one of Joe Biden saying, "I stand with Israel," and the response was, "Habibi, you can't even stand."
It's the picture of him like falling out of the plane
and off of the bike.
Woo. Yeah.
Dang.
It's gonna be a rowdy life, but it's gonna be an awesome one too. There's gonna be victories for every loss. There's gonna be 10 victories for every loss. Like, we're just gonna come back stronger than ever. And like, this is a fight for our freaking world. This is a fight for all life on this planet.
Oh yeah.
And we're gonna win it because life wins.
It's a fight for our very future. We say this in the Red Deal: Indigenous liberation is for everyone. And that's truly what's happening right now. A free Palestine frees us all, including our Jewish relatives who just want to live free and in peace wherever they are in the world. We also want that. We also want that for everyone.
Everyone means everyone. And I don't know. People, the thing that has been most striking to me is like watching people's like hearts change like in such a quick span of time, and like people really, really sincerely like having the courage and the audacity to see for themselves. Like, there's also another famous, like, it's not really a meme, but like a saying going around social media where, you know, the Israeli government is like, go do research for yourself, you know, and then people do, and then they're like, oh my God. And it's just backfiring. Like, the US, Israel, they don't control history the way they think they do. And they can't control this moment at all the way they think they are.
They certainly can't control our identities and our movements and, I don't know, our hearts. Like, yeah, you don't have control over that. I know you've tried real hard, but we're liberating ourselves in this moment.
Hell yeah. Props to Gen Z too, popping off on TikTok. Like, I find myself going to TikTok to get some real news now. I've seen the news on TV, and it's just horrible. Like, I can't even. They say nothing. It's gross. Like, I can't even, in any good conscience, like turn on the TV. But when I go on TikTok, like, it's really cool, like, to see how the youth has been responding to this. Like, there was that Roblox rally for kids who couldn't attend protests on in real life. They got onto their online gaming world or whatever, and they all protested inside of that. And I'm seeing like the video of Melanie's speech when I posted it onto our TikTok page. We have the Red Nation podcast TikTok page now. I rebranded it from the Red Media, and it's doing so well, so spectacular. We got thousands of followers overnight. Thank you, everyone. But that was a different experience than posting on Instagram and Facebook, because that is where the youth and all the kids are on TikTok. And TikTok was the only place where I posted that video, and there was like it was all just thousands and thousands of comments, just people like, yeah, solidarity, oh my god, I have the chills, I'm crying. And Melanie, they're speaking to how like touched they are by you as a person. There's a comment that was like, Melanie Yazzie for Navajo Nation president. Like, just like so wholesome. And like they are just like completely with it, like no questions asked, like they know what's up, they know what's going on, and they're just like they're just they like see a beacon of hope in what you said, Melanie. And it's been really cool to watch it go down on TikTok and to see how it's received.
Oh, so touching. We ride so hard for all of you. Seriously, we ride hard for just like all the people who just have the deepest desire in their heart to be fucking free. We ride for all of you. I don't care your nationality, your creed, your color. We ride for you. This is what we mean when we say Indigenous liberation is for everyone. And that this epic battle for Middle Earth that we are engaged in right now is a battle for the future of all life on this planet. It is a life-affirming battle. It is not a negation. And we know in our hearts that there is a future for us, for all of us to live in peace together on this beautiful planet that we call home, that was gifted to us. It is our responsibility. The prophecies that all of our nations have, that shit ends like now. There is no prophecy. There's no like destiny for the future. It is up to us to craft the future. And that is literally what's happening right now. Ride with us. I want to play like a song. Is there like a, yeah, Kiley.
do, Palestine! Do, Palestine!
Let's play a Macklemore song.
Well, it's been real, y'all. Stay strong because we're going to win. It is inevitable.
This seems like the stopping point. I have an announcement. So we're recording this on Friday, November 10th. After I get out of this browser, I'm immediately gonna switch gears to posting a social media campaign for a new website called Indigenous for Palestine.org, launching today. You might have seen, I think it was about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks, where we published an Indigenous solidarity letter with Palestine, or Indigenous solidarity with Palestine letter. There was over, I don't remember how many signatures there was. I think there was like 130 initial signers from all across. We had scholars on there, we had celebrities, we had activists, artists, and just a bunch of different people. And when we released it, there was hundreds more who wanted to sign it. And so we spent the last week and a half preparing a website so that you can sign the letter. So if you want, we're going to be asking our Indigenous listeners, if you're an artist, activist, or just a common man, if you want to be in solidarity with Palestine, please visit our new website, indigenousforpalestine.org. And you can add your name to the letter. But on the actual website, we got an awesome web designer who helped us build it. It is also beyond just the letter. the website has tons of resources. It has the original solidarity letter that the Red Nation wrote, and we also have transcribes of the translations of the letter into Spanish and Arabic on our website. And the amount of resources on there is just incredible. Of course, we have the Red Nation podcast, but we have books, websites, other prominent Indigenous letters of solidarity that have been written by other organizations. Yeah, so please get on there, sign your name. And one more thing I also want to plug is that we will be releasing this episode on Monday. This is our debrief for the March on Washington. What I didn't really mention, speaking to what Dee said earlier, how important it is to publish our own media as Indigenous people and organizations. I actually personally mark November 4th as sort of like my debut into like just what like being full throttle into the media work. Like you should have saw me geared up that day. And I and Jen were able to grab some awesome kick-ass interviews, an all-star cast. We got interviews with BJ Prashad, Amy Goodman, Crystal Tubles. We have one with Melanie, and we have one with Nadia from Palestinian Youth. Is she still in Palestinian Youth? Yeah, in Palestinian Youth Movement. She was the MC for that day, but we have an interview with her too. And if you would like to listen to these interviews, we will be posting them on our Patreon, because it does take a lot of work and labor and hours to produce this media work. So if you could support Red Media and us really just trying our best to broadcast what's happening on the ground and from an Indigenous perspective, you can support us on Patreon for as little as $2 a month. And that $2 not only sustains Red Media, but it gives you access to bonus episodes of the Red Nation podcast, like the interview lineup I just mentioned. And if you subscribe for more than $2 a month, then you have awesome benefits waiting for you. We have sticker packs. We have, I'm doing updates right now, so you'll see. But please support us on Patreon, and we'll have awesome interviews for you there on Monday.
Hell yeah, Justine. Thanks for all of that. And also, we should provide a link here. The folks who organized the National March on November 4th still need donations. It was hella expensive to rent that stage, to get the permits, to get all of those buses of people to DC. And they need every penny that they can possibly get, especially our Palestinian comrades and relatives who rode so hard to organize that for us to come together. So please donate. Please donate. Every penny counts for that, to cover those expenses. Any closing words, especially from maybe Kiley or Dee, since the other three of us have taken up space? And if not, that's cool.
Oh, I don't have anything further to say. I think y'all covered it and closed it up pretty good, actually.
Hell yeah. Until Palestine is free, until we are all free. Thanks for joining, comrades. It's an honor.
From the sea to the river, Palestine will live forever.
Ow!
Ow! Ow!
Yeah.
All right, we'll be back with another episode of Red Power Hour. I honestly don't know when, because time is irrelevant right now. But yes, you will hear from me again, and from all of us as things continue. The epic struggle for Middle Earth continues to unfold in the coming days and weeks and months. Thanks for listening, everyone.